Hello, and welcome to PiFi number 99.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Heidi. Hello, Alexei.
Hello, how you guys doing today?
Good. Uh, Dr. Dan Villiers may be joining us shortly, but for now, let's move. I had the lovely Heidi in the middle. There we go. She changed positions for some reason. Well, it's a beautiful, cloudy Saturday morning in Tennessee. How's the weather there in Denmark, Heidi?
Oh, it's beautiful. It's sunny weather and a little bit warm today, so that's perfect. It's like spring is here again, so amazing.
I never think of warmth when I think of Scandinavia. I
No?
always think I always think of Viking movies. Uh, that's
Yeah.
funny. I don't know if I told you this, but um, I did a DNA test a couple of years ago, and people are always, why do I do this? I don't know. I'm an old man, so I tell stories. I'm sorry. But I had a DNA test, and 33% of my DNA was from Norway. So I claim now that I am 33% Viking. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, you were born in Denmark, right?
I'm born in Denmark. Yeah, I
Yeah.
am. It's also a small part of Scandinavia, a small country here in Scandinavia.
Hmm. Alexei, how are you?
I'm good. I'm a little bit on the move today. Got a busy day, but I'm glad I'd be able to join for a minute. So
Yeah, Alexei is on his way to do a job, and I invited you because well, you're uh, typically co-host a show with me, but also wanted to get your point of view on this subject. So
yeah,
if
I
you don't
watched
mind,
a show with Heidi yesterday. You did the Preston Dennett show? I forget his name.
Exactly.
That was very interesting. You
which
Thank
know,
show
you.
was that?
Heidi,
Which
what was the name of that show?
It was a show with Dolly Saffron and Preston Dennett on the 8th of April, actually. That
Okay,
was amazing. Yeah.
I'm pretty
yeah,
sure Dolly has been on the show for
Yeah, I
sure.
think you
Yeah,
mentioned Dolly Saffron was on your show. Yeah.
yeah, nice, very nice lady.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's get into my questions. I was
Yeah.
very interested when I saw your bio, and I mean, I'll let you tell us a little bit about yourself first, but then I had a question about I've never heard of anyone experiencing, God or Christianity so early at an early age. So I thought that was
Yeah.
very interesting. Or
Yeah.
just or do your tell us who you are in your own words. I'm not very good at it. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Absolutely not. Well, for me, everything, started out when I was a little baby with God, and He was my first experience in life. And I have been spiritual, mirror slash paranormal all my life, actually. I would state that. And God has been with me all my life so far. And it started out, as I said, as a very young little baby. I was only 6 months old when it happened. And I will share that experience with you because what happened was I experienced something very tough. And I looked through the handlebars and looked at the people around me. And the only thing I could feel inside of me, I wanted to go home again. I didn't want to be here on earth, actually. And I wanted to go home, and I wanted to go home to God. I knew it was God I wanted to go home to. And I actually stopped breathing. And when I stopped breathing, in that split second, I stopped breathing, He appeared to me. God came to me. And I knew it was God because I felt the love inside of me. I felt the love so intensely, so I knew it was Him. The way He spoke to me was so fatherly and caring and wonderful, and it was love. And then He said to me, Heidi, breathe, breathe and live my message. That's what the words. And after He said that, I started to breathe again. And the message He gave me was the message about unconditional love. And it was love for all being. beings in this universe and beyond. That was happened. That was my very first experience in life, and only 6 months old.
Were you in an accident or something? What do you mean you could? What do you mean you couldn't breathe?
I actually just stopped breathing by myself. I just wanted to go home. I wanted to die, go home again.
Oh,
So
I
I
see.
actually
I thought
stopped
you meant.
breathing. Yeah.
Okay, I thought you meant you were in an accident or something.
Yeah, no, not to worry. But I actually just stopped breathing by myself because I wanted to go home again.
One of the things I find fascinating is how some people can remember. Like, I don't remember much before I was, like a year old or 2 years old.
Yeah.
I remember playing with Tonka trucks and Lincoln Logs or whatever, that inspired me to become a builder. but I don't remember, at that early age, and it's always interested me when people recount these experiences. And like I say, do you remember, what's your early remembrance of life?
Well, that actually just reminded me of something. My earliest remembrance of life is basically playing piano.
Can I ask you a question? Is your camera working, or do you need to leave it off? There you go.
Oh, I had it off for a reason. But
sorry.
No, it's okay. I'll answer the question and then turn it off again, kind of thing. But what I wanted to say is, I think I was playing piano. It's one of my earlier memories. But what I remember seeing from that last interview I saw you on, Heidi, is that you could say God experiences or paranormal experiences are the most vivid for you.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So when it comes to my most vivid memory, it's also one of those, So I think that's interesting because everything else is somewhat blurry, but that's like the most vivid memory I have. Yeah.
I also find it interesting, like my earliest experience with Christianity, God, was sitting in a church. And when I tell this story, sometimes people, like non-Christians, will say, oh, well, you were just influenced by the preacher or whatever. But my mother sang in the choir, right? She was a singer and she sang in the choir. I was sitting by myself in church. And I literally only remember this as a youth. The only thing I remember is about becoming Christian. At that age, that's the only thing I remember because it was such a huge experience, such a vivid experience where I was sitting, I would doodle, like, I loved drawing, when I was a kid. So my mother would go sing in the choir. She would give me a paper and pencil. I would draw, little houses because I wanted to be an architect. And I didn't know that the word was architect. I just knew I wanted to draw and build houses. Yeah. And I remember this energy coming over me.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, is this what having that feeling, is that what that's like? And it truly was the only thing I remembered about that year. I think I was 6 or 7. And but I've always been fascinated by what people remember. I don't know why, when they're young, when they're at that age. Let me turn my phone off. So I was really fascinated. One of the things that drew me to you was your story about being 6 months old.
Exactly.
It was very fascinating. And then, were you baptized? How do you all do your baptism? Were you baptized?
I was baptized, yes. And all small babies in Denmark are baptized very young. After 3 months, actually, we are baptized. We are.
So that's just a
6 months.
Cultural tradition, I guess.
Yeah, it is.
Because when I was baptized, it was it was not a typical thing. It's in Tennessee growing up. That's not. I mean, it's typical to go to church or whatever, but it's not like I've always thought that was interesting too, the different cultures. But I remember my baptism was that same feeling of energy came over me when I exited the water, from being dunked, and you don't really expect it. And I know people are going to say the reason I asked Dr. Dan to come was to to hear his explanation of maybe possibly of whether that's whether he thinks that that's a psychological thing or a physical thing. To me, it was very physical because I wasn't expecting it, and I had no preconceived notions at that age. I had never seen a baptism, so there was no bias there. So, what do you think about all that, Alexei?
I don't know what to think about it honestly, but I was baptized when I was very young. I'm a Russian Orthodox, so yeah. I think maybe the reason why you felt that energy is because, as you know, as kids we're super observant, and you might not have a preconceived notion or have any idea what's happening, but you're still aware that like everyone's focus and attention is on you, and you're being dipped, and I don't know, maybe subconsciously you have a really good subconscious mind, Artisan. Maybe you subconsciously knew that, you know.
But I still think that I still think there's something to it, though. In other words, I still think that you're accessing an energy that you wouldn't normally access in your body. You know what I mean? Like, I remember, you know, you and I have talked about this before, where like you're a martial artist, right? And Alexei, you've even taught martial arts, and I remember when I was in my 20s, I was doing the same. I didn't get very far, green belt or whatever. But our instructor taught us these advanced meditation techniques, and you would literally start to, if you did it properly, you would literally start to feel an energy in your lower gut to, you know, it's the spine area lower, and it would build. You would build that energy up, and you could feel it going through your body, literally. It was a physical thing. And that's similar to what I felt in my baptism. So I don't know what that is.
Just to chime in on that, I mean, it kind of reminds me of have you ever heard of structured water, or where they energize water? So that's kind of what priests do before they baptize people, right? Isn't the water blessed? It gets structurized. It carries more energy in it. Just a thought, you know.
I thought you meant they had to run current through the water. 110 volts.
No, it's like in a way the power of intention, but the way I like to see it too, it's it'd be too challenging to describe right now. Let me just put it that way. Yeah.
No, I guess I'm wondering what I guess what I'm trying to do is to delineate between cultural baptisms, you know, that early. I wonder if you get to experience the same kind of experiences when you're older, and you have, I wonder if there's different levels of experience with baptism. I mean, it seems like there is. I'm not trying to diminish any experience. I'm just saying it seems like there's different, and maybe there is a bias, you know, when you're going into it. But anyway, so I didn't mean to go that deep into baptism, but I've always found that interesting.
Oh, it is. So I'm also sitting here listening, so that's perfect.
I have a tendency to talk too much. I'm sorry.
No. It's perfect.
I love the conversation, and sometimes I have to catch myself. And I need to. Alexei should be better at interrupting. Is what it is.
So I have a question for Heidi. This might be a deep question, but what is God to you? Who is God? Like, I want to hear what your definition, and like, I know it's maybe very hard to describe a definition, but like, if you had to put it in, you know, if you had to describe it, what would you say?
Oh, for me, God is for me the unconditional love and the eternal truth. And because I felt that love in my body, I already knew it's the biggest love I have ever felt in my life. Not even a love for a husband or something like that can compare to it. That kind of love I have felt with God is so powerful and lifts you actually off the ground, because it's so powerful and so wonderful inside of you. And I think I want to go back to why I have experienced so much already back then. When you experience God, It's the truth, and the truth, you will always remember the truth. And that's why, because God is the truth for me. And when God appeared to me, even if in dream God decides to come to me or to someone else, is only because God chooses to do so. And why he do it is because he can see that you are ready to listen, you are ready to hear the things, and you are asleep during the night, and he can talk to you all through the night to you if he wants to do so. But God is for me love. He is absolutely love. And for me, it's Jesus. I see Jesus. I see God in everything. I see God in nature. I see God in the human being in front of me. I see God in the animals. So I see God everywhere, also in the universe. And that's because I have that feeling that we are all one. We are all containing the same kind of DNA that is in the entire universe. And I have always felt that oneness with God already as a little girl. I felt that. And that's why I know that God is everywhere. He's all around us. He is within every one of us. So we actually need to think about what we say to each other, right? God is within every one of us. So you can't hide if you say something not quite good, because he will listen. He hears everything. So for me, he is absolutely love, the unconditional love. That's God for me. Is that?
That's actually a really good answer, and it really reminds me. So I wrote one of the books. It's called The Physics of Love, Synchronicity, and you're talking about how it's the ultimate truth almost, and also you could say with the feeling where you get the most love. Yeah. So what happens when you get disconnected from truth? I call it like a delusion. Now you've jumped into some type of delusion or doubt, right? And you're not no longer walking in faith or confidence because you've jumped into a thought form that's not truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's true.
You all have sent my mind down a rabbit hole, but I always thought of God as like pure creation, right? I don't know why I always jump to the creation of the universe, us, life, and I know I have strange thoughts about this where I think God created everything, created our universe, created this planet, and at some point we kind of lost because I have this debate going with several people about free will, and all of that's connected, right? I think we were probably closer to God as far as a connection, as far as two-way communication before, when we were at peace in the garden. And I'm maybe the Garden of Eden is a symbolic thing, or maybe it's a real thing. People debate that all the time. But once we at some point we lost that, but we gained free will.
Yeah.
That's my theory, right? And sometimes we feel alone in the world because we were given that gift of free will, but we kind of lost a bit of the predetermination that God also had in mind. Maybe at some point the Creator had determination in mind, but at some point we gained free will as a gift. And I know I'm rambling, but I'm trying to explain. I guess I'm trying to explain why I'm not sure we have the perfect connection, and that's why like prayer is so important to make that connection to God. So I have especially for Tennessee, I have very strange thoughts on this. What about there was an event in 6th grade?
Oh yeah, I had that. I remember that because I was actually really ridiculed about that. And what was happening was the teacher was asking us if we were able to see things. And I said to her in front of the entire class that when I look into someone's eyes, I can see the soul in the person, because the eyes in the person is actually the window to the soul. And I can see if a soul is normally a soul is pure, because the soul is actually from God. And when I see into a person's soul, I can also see if there is some difficulties, if a person is on drugs or something else. I can see that as well when I look into the eyes of a person, right? And I was so ridiculed. All the class just laughed at me when I said that. And the teacher tried to calm them down and said, you can't do this to her because she's onto something. That's correct, she said. And they just continue laughing. And I was just such a little one, I didn't want to share anything more after that one in the class because I really got ridiculed, right? And it's actually tough when you are growing up, when you have that special kind of energy and thoughts and connection with God. It's very difficult to talk about it because when you are a little child, you are still very much connected to God. Because what happened to us is that when we grow up, we learn different kind of things and we get away from that path. And that's what's actually happened. So if we already in school continues to have that connection with God, it will never leave us. So it's only because we have that influence coming out from outside and we go to everything, every corner in the world, instead of looking on what we need to go. That's what happens to us. And that's why we get away from the path. Exactly. That's what I have learned so far in life. Mm-hmm.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Alexei. Yeah.
So I kind of agree, like the eyes are you could say the window to the soul and whatnot. And so are you able to see what is separating, what thought forms have been instilled into people that then have separated them from that source? Because you're saying
I
like
have very difficult hearing.
Are you able to hear me okay?
No, you're very low. I can't hardly hear you. Sorry about that, Alexei.
I'll try one more time. If it's too low, I'll be quiet.
No, don't be quiet.
No, don't be quiet. Just ask me, please. Please do.
You're saying that the windows are the eye to the soul, but through our experiences, we get disconnected from source in a way, or the creator. Are you able to see the decisions or events that happened in people that have separated them?
Oh, the last part I can't hear. The only thing I know is that as a child, you have that connection. You feel one with God. You feel one with nature when you're out there. But if you have a family that's only think about all the stuff in the world, all what's happening in the world, and also only talk about the world and not about God, eventually your mind will wander off and think about everything else instead of thinking about who you actually are from, where you come from. And that's why I think the influences coming from outside is the one who changes our minds, changes our way of thinking, changes our way of which part in life you want to take. But if you are like I was lucky enough to continue that connection with God, then you can, when you hear about all my experiences, you will know can you continue, oh wow, I can't see that. Connection with God throughout my life, actually, but only because I wanted to. So badly, I wanted to.
People, scientists have, been amazed from what I've read at why we even evolved to have eyes. And I think that, they talk about evolution, and I talk about creation.
Yeah.
And I think that eyes are so important. I think they're so complex, and especially for us as humans, I think we were given certain instincts that were connected to our sight, right? Because I don't know what it is, but it seems like I can just talk to someone for just a few seconds, and through watching their eyes, seeing their eyes, almost even in a photograph. Yeah. It's almost like humans were given instincts that we can hone, right, and develop. I don't know. I've always found that interesting. You can judge someone. You can judge. You're not supposed to judge people,
no.
But you can develop. I don't know, opinions about people, or you can. It's like looking at a photograph of Charles Manson, right? You can see in his eyes that he was an evil person.
Yeah.
But I think these are like, it's almost like a skill you have to develop. But also it was a gift from the creator, so that early on humans could survive, right? When we look into the eyes of a tiger, we know that's danger.
Yeah.
So I think it's very I don't know. What do you think about that, Alexei?
No, I think there's something to that, and I mean, the more you remove those delusions, the things that keep you away from that source, the closer you get to source.
Yeah.
Right. And so any skill can be developed, any skill can be harnessed and honed in on. And since we're born into different cultures and customs, we have different visions of what we think success is. And so based off of what culture you're born into is what you're ultimately going to develop as far as skill sets and ability to connect. And if we're living in a very materialistic world, I don't see many people naturally wanting to connect to source creation.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. What other experiences did you have after that kind of?
Oh yeah. Oh, I have lots of experiences. I don't know which one to start with because I have experienced many things in life. I really do, and I will, of course, I would love to continue with the ones where God has been involved in my life. And I have one where I can tell you. You know, people can be very skeptic. We know that because it's an area where some people do not believe in God. They don't want him to exist. He's not there, but he is absolutely very much alive, and he is there for every one of us. I can tell you that as well. So I was actually married to a skeptic. He's not my husband anymore because I couldn't stay married because he was so skeptic. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't develop my spiritual instincts or paranormal instincts while I was married to him. I had to go. I had to leave to be able to develop myself, to evolve, right? And that's actually sad because normally I do not do something like that, but I had to do that. But I was actually married to him for a while. And he was very skeptic whenever I talked about God or I talked about alien or talked about ghosts, right? And then I think God helped me somehow. He gave me an experience where my husband had to think about it twice. And what happened was I was actually in my home at that day and was very busy working on my computer, and the phone rang. And the only thing I did, I was pointing towards the phone without turning, just pointing to the phone, and said to my husband, "This is a phone call for you. It's about a death in your family, in your close family." And I just continue my work without looking up. And then I stopped and said, "What was it that I just said to him?" It just blurred out of my mouth. And I just looked at him, and he turned around in disbelief and looked at me and said, "What?" He said, I do understand why he was so, what was that all about, right? So I think he was a little bit shocked when he picked up the phone, and he actually got the message. It was a death in his family. It was. And when he hung up the phone, he turned around to me and said, "How did you even know that?" And I just sat there for a while looking at him. At first, I couldn't say anything, but then I said to him, "I don't know. I just knew that in here. I just knew that." So that, I think, changed him a little bit, that he experienced that directly. That was one of them. So I have more. If you like, I can just continue. That's up to you, okay?
I have this very strange theory about, what scientists can't find in the ether, and it's something that may connect us all, right? Because there's something about being able to communicate with God in a subconscious way or even a verbal way that allows us to. I know back during some of the housing crisis, when I started my company, this is just kind of weird. What we would get a project and we'd come down, we're almost finished, and I would tell my son's been working with me part time for a long time. I would say I need to put out the feelers in the ether. We need another project, and it's we really need another project, right? And it's like that day or the next day, I'd get a phone call. Hey, I need a house built, and it never happens. It would never happen unless we were coming down to the end of a job. And people will have all kinds of explanations for this, right? and it's okay. I'll listen to your explanations, but it never fails. It's like right now I could say, man, I really need. Well, I'm saying it on the air, so that's people are going to call. You said you needed work, but I do this in the truck when I'm driving down the road. Though there's no communication with the outside world, and I don't know what it is. I don't know. What do you think about that, Alexei? I mean, it's not soup. It's not. I mean, when I tell my family that kind of stuff, they think I'm strange. But what do you think about it?
Oh, I mean, the synchronicities, right? That has everything to do with like the collective subconscious mind of humanity collapsing all the pacing motions of our lives into existence.
But can't we connect it somehow with with our? I mean, I believe in a creator, but even if you don't believe in a creator, can't you believe that there's some sort of background phenomenon that somehow connects our consciousness a little bit? I mean, it seems like whether you're a Christian or a Muslim or a scientist, you can come to an agreement that there's some way that we're sort of subconsciously, communicating with each other. I know that's probably heretical, right, Heidi?
No, I think so. I'm more curious to hear what Heidi has to say about that.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, I think we all connect, because I have always said, if you do not believe in God, then believe in yourself. Believe in what you do, okay? But that's actually correct. Yeah, it is. What is that? There's a question there I can see.
Uh-huh. Can you see it?
No, it's little I saw. I can't read it all. What it says.
Okay, so it's a question for Heidi. In 2014, after Woo, since a little, I saw my first full-formed deceased person.
Yeah.
What is one to do with some of the things they ask you to do? Do you just ignore or deliver the message? I don't quite understand that, but I think what
I do understand. No worries.
Okay, good. I'm glad you do.
Yeah, because when people experience things, some people, when they appear to them, it could be a ghost, a spirit, it could be an alien so far as well. It could be God standing in front of you. But if you're not ready to do it, it's okay to close down a little bit. God will know when you're ready. The aliens will know when you're ready, and the spirits will know when you're ready. So if you, in the first place, you see it, but you try to do that, close up, I do not have anything to do with it, it's okay, because they know when you're ready, and then they will be there again for you, and they will talk to you, okay? And then you will be ready to listen. That's what I have experienced in my life as well. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting you started talking about aliens, because I wanted to talk about this a little bit before we lost Alexei. I think I don't know how much longer we're going to have you, Alexei.
No.
But some people think, okay, so I'm trying not to talk about my theories too much. Some people, not me, but some people are saying, when we have these events and they see things floating in the sky, they will attribute them to angels or demons, right? But I think sometimes we do that when we don't know what else to think. I don't know what is your opinion on, or what is your opinion on that whole thing? What you've had experiences yourself, right?
Yeah. I actually do. I know the difference between an angel and a demon. I know the difference between an alien and a human and an angel and a demon, because I have experienced all of them. So I know the difference, how they are, what kind of type they are. Still, we are from the same one kind of energy, but there are slight differences in every one of us. And the aliens, they look like they do. They are gray, and they look like what they're looking like, because that's the only one that can exist on that. And spirits are what they are. They are deceased people who is hanging around here on Earth, actually, still. And as well as, I think I lost what I see in the sky. I can differentiate if it's an airplane, it's a helicopter, or it's a UFOs, because I can feel it inside of me. But people who can't feel it, are not sensitive enough to feel the difference, can have difficulty to see if it is just a plane that is human created, or if it's actually something very UAP, as I call it. UAP is unidentified aerial phenomena. It has nothing to do with an angel. It has nothing to do with demons. That's something quite different. But aliens are from that, and there are lots of different kinds of aliens types, but the normal ones we always hear about are the greys. And the greys are actually here to help us. So that's also one aspect of aliens that's very important. There are aliens out there like there are humans here on Earth. There are good and there are bad ones, okay? And that goes for everywhere. There's yin and yang all over the place. But as I told you, angels are so beautiful. Their light is so beautiful because they are so close to God. And it's so bright and so shiny. And the aliens have a tighter kind of skin issues because they have to adapt where they are in space, but also if they are here on Earth, they also need to adapt to that. And demons are something else. It's kind of an evil a kind of evil entity who wants to harm you, who is hurtful, who wants to deceive you, who wants to tell you stories that's not correct and something like that. And if you are one who listening to that, you will go astray from your path in life. And that's a demon, and they're very powerful. So you need to be very careful out there, okay? And then there are spirits that are here. They are maybe deceased, who wants to talk to you and wants to be there for you. They'll also protect you. And the same angels are also there for you and protect you. And as well as God is absolutely there all the time, okay? So it's different for me to say what's kind of different are they. They are just different kind of type, just like we humans. We are also different kind of types, okay? And we also look differently, but we look like that in human, but we are looking differently, as well as the alien does, as well as the angel does. And spirits, I can see full apparitions of ghosts. I couldn't as a little child, but today I can see the full apparition of a ghost. So how to explain all of that? It's very, you have to experience those to be able to find out what they are, okay? Sorry.
No, I think experience is everything. Well, I was just thinking while you were talking, when you have a religious experience or spiritual, I don't mean to say religious. That's an institutional thing. But when you have a spiritual experience, and this is kind of this is coming full circle, right? With our eyes, our intuition. If you, and the fact you add those things, physical things that we were given with the spiritual experience, you have this intuition. You develop an intuition so that when you see something, you just know. And so it's, I don't know, for me, it's frustrating when people see, or, something floating in the sky and they say, oh, that's an angel or demon.
Yeah.
For someone who has had a spiritual experience, just by looking at it, it's okay. I don't say I'm saying you have an intuitional
experience,
feeling about no, that's just a balloon, floating in the air. It's almost like you don't have a superpower, but you do have this discernment, this different. That's why I invite people to have their own spiritual experiences, because you develop a sense, you develop an intuition where you can view something and not jump to a conclusion that's because you will have 50% of the people say that's a demon. Now the other 50% will say that's an angel. Well, no, I don't mean 50-50. You're gonna leave 20 or 30% in there for the spiritual people who know that it's not biblical for just an angel to hang out in the sky and flash lights, right? So does any of that make sense?
Yeah, for me it does. Yeah.
I guess, what do you think about all that, Alexei? Do you think that it sort of emerges?
All makes perfect sense.
I think
Yeah.
I think being able to discern things like that emerge from your a spiritual experience, and if you don't have a spiritual experience, like a lot of the atheists who there's a lot of atheists who believe in UFOs. So they will see them, and sometimes they will try to attribute them to demons or angels
Yeah.
when they haven't developed that sense of discernment. It's a knee jerk reaction, in other words. But anyway, this is about you, Heidi.
No worries. I can, yeah, well, what is angels? I can tell you a story or again, an experience I had with God and angels. I can do that. So let me just want to talk to you about. It was, I think I was 16 years old at the time, because it was a time in my life I had very difficulties. Teenagers do have many things to talk about, many things to think about, and sometimes we can feel very alone. Okay, and actually that's what's happened to me when I was 16 years old. I felt so alone in the world. My heart was sad because I felt I couldn't talk to people, because I had been ridiculed many times because of what I just blur out in my mouth. I'm sorry about that, because it comes from within. I can't stop it. It just comes out. It's not harmful, but just say things. It just comes from a source within me. It comes from a source that is God. And sometimes this time I was actually very sad, and I was a little disconnected to God at that point in life, actually. So what happened was I was sad, and one night I actually had a very intense dream, and I will call it a vision instead of a dream, because God was also there. So I was standing in a very known sports area in the town I lived in. I actually play handball, soccer, and badminton. I went swimming and everything like that. But then I chose to choose just one sport, and that was martial arts. And it was karate I chose instead, because that kind of sport is absolutely fantastic if you need to get in shape, right? But at the time, I suffered a paralysis, so I had to quit all kind of sports. That's something else in my life. I can always talk about that another time. But in that dream or vision, I was standing at the soccer field, and it was actually pitch black night, And the only thing I could see, I faintly could see the silhouettes at the area. I could see the hedges, the goal, the lawns, and the clubhouse. And the dark night reflected clearly how I felt inside of me, the loneliness I felt in my heart, right? There was a few silhouettes in the clouds drifting across the sky, and here and there was a little star. And the clear moon actually enabled me to distinguish between those silhouettes on the field. And my feelings were so overwhelming. Was I lost, Was my life dark without any hope left? That's what I felt at that moment. But suddenly something completely fantastic happened. The night sky just above me, split into a very huge crack, and a powerful white light blazed through it and lit up the entire scenery. It was such very breathtaking, and I was actually very speechless. I saw angels descend from above, and they looked at me very lovingly. I could feel it, and they sang in completely beautiful voices. And my heart vibrated by their singing, and everything inside of me just bubbled with joy. I was happy. I felt the love they had for me. So I was really happy in that moment when I saw the angels. And when they came nearer to me, suddenly out of that huge crack came an enormous hand that reached towards me. And in that split second, I understood it was God that reached out to me, giving me his helping hand, and to let me know I was not alone ever in my life. And after that dream, everything stopped. The miserable mind disappeared, because he showed me in that dream that everything is real, and that he is there for me, and he is there for every one of us. That was one of them. Yeah, I needed to share that, because that's how I saw the angels. They descended from above and came down to me. Yeah.
I think it's okay that these things are either visions or physical, what would be the word, apparitions.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that, I don't know, I guess I get annoyed easily. I'm discovering that, but when people try to say that, when they try to compare UFOs or whatever to angels, they
Yeah.
will use stories in the Bible like Ezekiel, the Ezekiel's wheel. And the way I interpret that was that it was a vision given to Ezekiel. It wasn't a physical thing, right? So I think we can be sent visions that other people don't see, right? Um,
Yeah.
and it's part of that communication process. It doesn't have to be a spiritual. It doesn't have to be a physical thing. It could be a spiritual experience, right? But
Yeah.
how do you? I missed the first part. Do you consider that a vision that was given to you, or do you think it was a physical happening?
Oh, that one I have there with God and the angels. Well, for me, as I said in the beginning, when God appear in dreams, it's God that chose to come to you. So, and
Mm-hmm.
when God is present in your dreams or visions, it is the real, it's truth. That's what I have learned throughout my life, and because I've had that many experiences with God, that's what I can tell you. It's for me, it feels like the truth, and everything he says and does in those dreams or visions I have, it can be both because you have also visions in your dreams, and when he comes and tell you stuff, it actually happens in your life. That's what I have experienced. That's what my family had experienced. That was some of my friends have experienced. When God said something to me, it happened. And every time he came to me or said it through a vision or something, sometimes he's like standing beside me talking to my ear. I can hear everything. Or you can call it telepathy also, because it's so clear to me when God speaks to me that I know it's about. And it's always about love. It's never about hurting anyone. It's not about being cruel to anyone. It's always about love. It is. That's what I feel. And it's for me, that one was a vision in dream. It was a vision he gave me.
And I think we can have these visions without dreaming.
Yeah, we can.
I think that's a
Absolutely.
skill
Yeah.
that you can hone. It's also a skill. I think God gave us many skills that we can develop. We just
Yeah.
have to be conscious of them. I
Yeah.
know that people are going to think, people probably, I don't really think care what people, at this point in my life, I don't really care what people think about me. And that's kind of a nice place to be, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes I'll be driving down the road. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's the same skill that you use in like design or architecture or any kind of engineering is the same skill that you is the same vision process that you can receive those types of visions, right? Because
Exactly.
I'll literally be driving down the road and I'll be thinking about like an architectural detail or something like that. It'll be in my head, and I'll pass a road or I'll almost run a red light. And my son's like, "Stop or turn left or whatever," and I will have literally fallen into that, not a trance, but a state where I have the image of that job or that drawing in my head, and I'm working on that. It's like a vision, and I know this sounds crazy, but it's true. And I have to kind of bring myself back to where I am, especially driving down the highway, right? Because highway driving is so boring. I can literally go to another place and come back, and
Yeah.
it's kind of. And the only reason I bring that up is because I do think these are these are physical things that we can develop, we can practice, and
Exactly. Yeah.
meditation helps you achieve that, right? Learning some deep meditation, and then you start to understand the physical connections that we have with the spiritual connection, that how we can connect those two together.
Yeah.
So I don't know, that was a long drawn out thing, but I still think that people are too critical of people who have visions, right? It's almost like it's I don't know. What do you think about that, Alexei? Do you think there's some sort of stigma surrounding that
Oh
kind
well,
of
I
thing?
mean, when most people are like, "Oh, he's got visions. He's being prophetic." It's like, no, a vision is an image in your mind. Everyone
Right.
probably has seen something in their mind before. It's a vision. Now, how developed is that vision, right? That's a different story. Are you able to actually feel the vision as well with your body? Like, did you feel yourself walking through the area? So the way I like to see it is that dreams and visions ultimately will change your harmony within your body. And this might sound woo. I know we're kind of already in that territory, but like we have what I call light state harmony, and it's like the energetic vibrations your body is giving off in relationship to the future of the manifestation of our universe. And so based off of your postures is how you move through space-time and how your body interacts. And so when you leave a vision or a dream or a powerful thought form, literally your harmony has changed and it creates different potentialities for your future. So when people say stuff like, Heidi, like you had your vision and now all of a sudden you were cured or you felt more at center, well, of course, yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. Like, I don't see how that, for me, it's very, there's a defined physics about it too. And it has to do with like the vibrational harmony within your body.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think visions are great. I've been learning in my dreams since I was like 5, and I'll wake up knowing how to do a task because not only have I seen it in my head, but I've felt all the motions I need to make in order to do it. So yeah, I think dreams and visions are great.
I think we've lost touch with what the definition of a vision is. I don't think visions are, they don't have to be woo. I mean, you can close, I mean, your eyes only receive the light, right? They don't create the image that you're seeing. Your brain creates that, right? So when you become aware of the fact that you don't need your eyes to have vision, then, I mean, I have been meditating or contemplating on design. When I designed my mid-century modern cabin, I did more meditating than I did drawing. Right. When I went out to build it, this happens on every project. Okay. When I go out to build it, it's already the vision is already in my head. That's not a woo. That's nothing woo. That's literally me creating that project in my head and just not having to have physical things like drawings the only reason I need drawings is to communicate with other people, my framers, my roofers, my window guys or whatever. That's the only reason I need those drawings. I don't need them. Right? So it's a skill set. It's not woo. It's a skill set you can develop. And I think people just need to stop, making it woo. Stop criticizing people. Stop stigmatizing people, and start to look inside a little bit. Because that's where all of our images or all of our visions are start in your head. I'm gonna stop talking now and ask you another question. I have to catch myself. Let's see, getting into more of the the alien stuff. What was that your first experience with
my first experience with UFOs was, I was only 4 or 5 years old at the time, and it happened at my grandma's place in a small town in the south of Denmark called Vordingborg, it's called. And we were visiting grandma, and we had to stay the night because mom is very often out working at the time she was. So we were always spending time, me and my twin sister, at the grandma's place actually. And actually that night, a huge thunderstorm arrived, and the boats in the harbor, looked like if they were dancing around on the water. The lightning was extreme, and the energy, you could feel the powerful energy that was in the air. And we were going to bed and sound asleep a little bit. Well, but suddenly a bolt of lightning actually hit the area very close to the house, so close that grandmother and me and my twin sister, we flew out of bed and we ran into the living room because it was so loud. And then she went into the kitchen to make up a cup of tea so we could calm our nerves, because we were really frightened because it was really loud, the thunder out there actually. And during the night, there was a small break in storm, and it got quiet, and you could barely hear the thunder in the distance, but the storm wasn't over yet. We all went to the door, and Grandma actually opened it, and we looked out into the garden and down to the harbor. And it was as if we were standing there in the middle of the eye of the storm. As you have the hurricane, you understand in the middle of the storm, there's actually kind of silence, but you can see it all around you somehow, right? And we stood there looking, and we stood there on the staircase and very close together. There was my sister, grandmother, and me. We stood like that. And suddenly, from inside, I felt a different kind of energy that made me look upwards immediately. I just did that and said, oh. And then I saw them. There were 3 spacecraft up there, and they actually hovered there, and they placed themselves aligned, so beside each other, and they were so bright, very bright. As you see the sun multiple times, it was so bright, those 3 balls of light that was there. But I knew instantly it was kind of spacecraft, right? And the feeling I had inside of me was, oh, they're friends from another world. And to be 4 or 5 years old, to think like that, how did I even know that? But I had that instinct feeling when I looked up there and said, they are actually friends from another world. And when I wanted to ask Grandma about the question about it, I immediately knew inside of me, I couldn't say I felt it was friends from another world. The only thing I could say to her was, who are they? And Grandmother looked in the same directions as me and my sister were. She looked for a little while, and then she got scared. She actually grabbed us and draw us into the room, closed the door, smack, and put us into the living room. And I said, but Grandmother, what's wrong? But why are you doing this? Why are you afraid? I said. And she just shook her head. I can't answer your question now. You just need to go in. You're not allowed to go out again. You have to stay indoor, she just said to me. But back then, I didn't understand why she was so scared about it. But today I know, of course, that many are scared of the unknown. So normally it's that. But to be 4 or 5 years old, to already know that this was something very special that was above our heads. I can't tell you why I didn't. I knew that, but it was very amazing. And it's actually skyrocketed my interest also in UFOs. Absolutely. And has been so throughout my entire life, and I have countless of encounters with UFOs and aliens since then. Yeah.
I hear this. I hear it a lot where people who experience that, excuse me, they aren't like they before that happens, they would assume they would be frightened, but when it actually happens, they're not. They're not that frightened.
Exactly.
It's almost like they're at some sort of peace with what's happening, or maybe it's shock, or I don't know. But I've often tried to imagine it, because I live out in the middle of nowhere in the woods, and I keep thinking, why can I not have an experience? Why? And in your mind, you're like, just come down here and land in front of my tiny shack. Why not just, And so I've often tried to put myself in those situations, but I don't think you can actually imagine it.
No.
I don't know. Alexa, I forgot, have you had like a direct experience like that?
Yeah. I've had like 10 or so, but the one that I referred to slightly earlier in the beginning of the show when I said it's like one of the most vivid images or dreams that I've had, was I'm sitting in deep meditation at my house, and an orb essentially like 2 to 3 feet in front of me comes in, starts glowing. I always called it a glowing nutshell, because it looked like almost like 2 halves of a nut, and it opened up, and so the top of it kind of swiveled open, and there was basically a gray inside, holding out his hands. And that's when I speak about delusions and things that pull you and separate you from God, kind of. That's when I first got that message, that like mankind puts everything, we've created all the philosophies we follow, we've created all the infrastructure we exist within. We're kind of caught up in spirals of delusion that are keeping us separate from this greater source. And so at that moment, I was returned to zero. So it was like the light state harmony in my body returned to a point of no wants, don't wants, assumptions, or expectations. And from there, you can actually start to control and guide the subconscious pacings of your life to begin with. So yeah, I've had several experiences, and they all come with like you could say spiritual lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of brings me to one of the points I wanted to, or one of the questions I had for you, Heidi, is that, I mean, I look at these beings as just other creations from God. They just developed at different portions of the universe or whatever. But do you think, I mean, I don't think they're any more special than humans, or do you? I mean, you don't assign any sort of hierarchy to beings that God created, right? Or do you?
No, I think God created every one of us. Every single being out there is created by God. So also the angels and everything is created by God. And he also created the aliens, the different kind of cultures of aliens as well. And the those we see it a lot in on Earth is actually the Greys. They are here also ones called the tall whites. There are something called Nordic aliens. There are many different kinds of aliens, but the Greys are more those we see the most actually. That's the Grey, right? But it is a creation from God as well. It is, and they know about God. The Greys know about God. I have seen that. I've seen God talk to a Grey. So
I guess that's why I get a little defensive when people try to assign them to be angels or demons when they're just
yeah,
really another creation.
yeah,
And for me, you know, a person who grew up in the church, angels and demons are, I don't want to say special. I don't want to say demons are special, but angels are certainly, they have specific tasks. They've always had like specific tasks in the
yeah,
Bible. Like angels are basically messengers of God, right? From God. They don't just like come and float and hang out in the air,
yeah.
right? They're not UFOs. So that was one of the things I was kind of wanting to bring the subject I wanted to talk about as far as why I guess we do that because again I think it goes back to spiritual, I don't want to say spiritual experience as in or knowledge, but once you have a knowledge of, I mean, every religion I think has enough tradition and knowledge to inform you that UFOs or or aliens are not angels or demons. I think a lot of that comes from people who don't yet have the discernment.
Mm,
And I'm not saying that people who do who have the discernment are special. I'm just saying it's the difference between you know being gaining the knowledge or the experience or the education of
yeah.
that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I totally agree because people need to see them for themselves to understand what they are dealing with. Sometimes they just hear about it in the media and then don't know what it is about. If they haven't seen them, then can't relate to it. And then they just blur out, yeah, they say such and such. But this is not, they have to experience it themselves to understand what it is all about. And if people just say stuff about it and have never experienced it, they actually do not really know what it really is. It can be difficult for those not have experienced it to actually understand what's going on in our surrounding energy field. And they are there. They are there together with us as well as the angels and everything else. It is there. So they must remember it's a creation from God, and the grays are not bad ones. They're not, because what I have experienced with grays are actually love. It's actually love. Yeah.
I'm not I'm not criticizing woo, Shelley. I don't want people to think. I mean, I caught myself sounding kind of arrogant with. It's not like I'm trying to create some sort of special rating for people who have spiritual experiences. All I'm saying is that once you have a spiritual experience, you will go
Mm,
back and try to learn about the history and culture of that experience, and you'll read the Bible, you know, and then once you go through all of that, you can discern better what you're looking at, what you're experiencing. Right? It's not a special thing. It's not a special power, superpower. It feels like it, but it's just an experience. It's what really being an experiencer is all about, right? Is
Yeah,
experience and
exactly.
and the knowledge of what you're looking at. So
Yeah,
anyway,
that's true.
um, hmm,
But maybe it's because I experience all of the things I do. I am a very sensitive person. I can see loads of things in our surrounding energy field. And maybe that's why I see both aliens and angels and spirits and, ghosts and yeah, whatever. And God, of course. I think that's because I have that ability since I was a little girl. And I think everyone has that ability inside of us. We can all develop that. The intuitive part of sight, you can develop that as well. Absolutely, we all have that inside of us. So it's just, if you want to learn about it, you can just focus on it through meditation, and it will happen to you. And when you're ready, you can feel and see things that are so amazing out there. So maybe I'll just say that just stay open-minded, open-hearted. You can see so many amazing things out there, and it will blow your mind. Trust me, it will blow your mind. Yeah.
it just occurred to me if I spent more time concentrating or visualizing that, I would probably experience it more. But I spend too much time on earthly things like building, projects,
Yeah, we are doing that,
visualizing those things.
right? Yeah.
I'm too interested in architecture to worry about little gray guys.
But it's also God inspiring you to do the things you do when you build the things, right?
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
But I guess the point I'm trying to make there is that we can make the choice, right?
Yeah. We
We,
can.
we consciously make choices of what we want to understand, right? Um, I want to understand fully and build things and leave something behind for my kids, right? That probably when I get older, I'll turn away from that and I'll probably hone the ability to be more spiritual or whatever. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Maybe I can experience more woo.
Yeah.
Shelly's talking about woo, and
Yeah.
Alexei is her woo. You know Shelly, Alexei? She's in the
Yeah,
chat. Yeah.
very cool. Yeah,
And
I'm distracted from the. I'm not actually like looking at this. I'm just listening intently.
but I guess I'm trying to say that um, the we kind of stigmatize the woo, but we can decide we can decide what how much of that we want to allow our minds to delve into. I think.
Focus of your your mind essentially based on what culture you live in, right?
Yeah.
So we live in a very monetary society, and so you kind of have to do architecture. You kind of have to do these things in order to make money, so you can eat food. If we had different expectations put onto us, maybe we could all just sit, meditate like Buddhist monks, you know. But we're a
Yeah.
product of our environment in a way, or greatly influenced by our environments.
That's a good point. The Buddhist monks is that's a great analogy, I think.
Yeah.
Huh. Hmm. Let's
Yeah.
see. I had a question about you were you elected to the Honorable Order of Christian Knights of the Rose?
Yeah.
That seems very fascinating to me.
Yeah. Well,
What
what we do, yeah, oh, sorry. Yeah, what we do in there. I was so lucky to be part of that. I've been a part of it for many years. It's actually a Canada-based organization that I'm a part of. And it was because of my view of God. It was because of my experiences with God and the way I think about people in society and how to help out people in society. And often, so we do some kind of project sometimes, and we go out there, help the needy ones. And that is what I do in there. So sometimes we have a project, we do that in our own countries where we stay. And a couple of years ago, I had one for the homeless people in Copenhagen, actually in Denmark. And I was out there, people helping me, my family helping me. We would gather all the stuff they needed at the homeless shelter. So that was kind of a wonderful thing to do and make a difference, a kind of difference in people's life. Okay. So I was actually asked by the Grandmaster to join because of my view on God, my experiences with God, and because of what I think about people in society in general, because I have a love for everyone. I think that's the one, yeah.
What's the history of that organization? Is it sort of related to, does it go back to the early, I mean, it sounds like it's medieval almost.
Oh, yeah, it sounds medieval, but it isn't. No, it isn't. Absolutely
Darn.
not. It's not medieval.
I thought
But
you
it
were going
is
to tell me some folklore. Darn.
Yeah, it's a wonderful organization. You can actually find it on Facebook as well. It's called What Has Read, yeah.
So it's not related to Rosicrucians?
No, it's not.
Darn,
It's not.
I thought you were going to tell me some secret society stuff.
No, it's not about that at all. That's something quite different. Yeah, that's true. No, this is about.
We have to ask Alexei about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I don't know anything about Rosicrucianism. People just tell me I'm a reincarnated one, and I'm like, I don't know about that. I'm just
aren't the Rosicrucians the one that kept the secret of the the Holy Grail? Aren't they the ones that supposedly know where the chalice or whatever is, and they protect it and all that? Which is supposedly a true story.
I have no idea. I always thought that was the Knights Templars, I guess.
Yeah, Knights of the Templars, exactly. That's true.
I think they were part of that, but I think the Rosicrucians were actually like the monk type people who stayed in the monastery to, the knights were out riding around on their horses, and the Rosicrucians were hanging out in the monasteries. They were the monks or whatever. They were the Buddhist monks that knew super, martial art. What kung fu? What's the Buddhist monks?
Shaolin.
Shaolin. Yeah.
Shaolin, exactly.
I did that for like 5 years. It's a fun one.
Yeah.
I'm now pulling up to the job site, so I got to go.
All right, well, thanks, Alexei. Thanks for dropping in. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Heidi. It's great to meet you. It's great to talk to you guys.
Yeah, too.
Let's do it again sometime, right?
Yeah, we'll do it again. Thanks, right. Alexei. See you. Good luck. I love Alexei. He brings he brings the scientific woo part of things to it's it keeps me from being too prejudiced about the woo. Alexei does. He's a great guy.
Yeah, it's a great view he has on things. I love that. Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's see. I was wondering, I had a couple more questions.
Yeah.
I guess in closing, let's see, this question I developed. You express a hope to bring enlightenment to others' path in life. What message or insight do you most hope readers will take away from your books? And also, I wanted to talk about your books a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. What I absolutely hope within my heart is that when you read my books, you will see that I have experiences with the divine God, that I have experienced that there are other beings here on earth. And what is the most important part is that you are open-minded and have an open heart to see things in your surrounding energy. And you actually can gain help from God directly. If you need it in a situation where you are stuck, if you are in a bad situation, you can get help from God immediately. And you just need to turn your vision inside of you, speak to God whatever you want. He is always listening to you, wherever you are in your life. He's listening to you, whatever you do. And the most important thing is have always a pure heart when you pray to God. And if you can, sit down and have a talk to God. It's always have this divine connection with God. It's a kind of prayer. It's also a talk. If you sit up in the morning and you're not able to pray a specific prayer, then just talk to him as he is your best mate out there in the world. He will listen to you because you talk to him with your open heart. And when you talk to him about that, he will open your heart so you can see everything, and you will also be able to see God as well. Absolutely. You will experience him through your heart. And that's what's so important in my books, is that you can experience things like I do, have the connection with aliens as I do, and the same with ghosts. I'm not afraid of ghosts anymore. I was when I was a little girl, but I'm not anymore. And as I told you, I can see them in full apparitions, and I talk to them why they are coming. And so often I send them home to God. They can see on the other side how spiritual you are, how paranormal you are, and if you are open to stuff like that. And they, as I told you, they will come to you when you are ready. And that's what the most important message is as well in my books I have written. And I didn't write the books to earn money. That's not the issue here, because God wanted me to write books. He told me 10 years before I even wrote my first book. God said that to me. And when he, exactly, those are some of them. Some of them are not existing anymore. I have other books. I have the series I call A Life with Supernatural Events, part 1, 2, and 3. And I have the books, the latest one I wrote was The Inner Voice, Gems of Wisdoms. That's full of experiences with God alone. That's the one, exactly. That was the other one, Tony.
Which one?
The one you have, the first one is the part number 3 in the series of Life with Supernatural Events. Number 2 is number 2, actually. It is. Let me see what you have there as well. And then you can see the subscription. You can see what I have written there, so you can see what it's all about. You can also see that on my website. You can go in there and read about my books, so you can see that for yourself. So I have actually only written the books because people told me, Heidi, please share your experiences you have with all these categories. Share this with the world. Otherwise, I have never done it. And when God told it to me, I didn't quite understood why I was the one to write books. And when he said it to me, he said it in a fantastic way, because I remember he showed me this tall teacher's desk, and I was standing at it, back in school all time. The teachers always stood up in the classroom while he was teaching people, right? And I stood on that at that table and that high desk there, and I wrote down things in the book, and beside there was some books lying on the there as well. And I was, am I to be? I asked God, am I to be an author? I said to him, and then he just smiled at me and said, "No, I'm the author." He said, "You were the writer." So that also shows me that God inspires us, whatever we do in life, right? He is the one who puts in the inspiration for you to do things, do stuff. So I have only done that because people wanted me to write about the books, write my experiences in the books, and they are filled with real life experiences. I can only write about what I have experienced in my heart, what I have experienced myself. I have a few of them from my son and from my twin sister as well, because we have shared experiences with ghosts and UFOs and such. So they are also in there as well, but the 98% of it is my own experiences, and that's why I have written about it. I can't write about things I don't understand myself. I can only write about things I do understand, I have learned in my life. That's the only thing you can do. You can't be kind of a teacher and teach things you don't understand yourself, because the pupils will never learn about that. But if you put out a wonderful experience that you actually have experienced, it's quite another story. And we are here on earth to help each other. No matter where we are in life, we are here to help each other. And that's why I have written my books, is to share with you what I have experienced, and hopefully maybe then you can use them to understand things you have experienced in your life, and maybe understand it a little bit more. Or you might even have experienced some of the same things that I have, and you can say, that I experienced myself. That's amazing. So you're not alone in this task. But if you already are in here and listening to what we are talking about today, you are already on that path. And I can only say good luck with everything, because it's a positive thing to experience. It's such a beautiful thing to experience. That's why I have written my books. Yeah.
That's amazing, Heidi.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming today. Maybe you can come back sometime and we can have another discussion. I
Yeah.
would actually like to read a few of your books and then have you back sometime.
Yeah, I would love that. Absolutely. I would love that, Tony. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming. And if you don't mind, hang out for a minute. I wanted to get
I
some
will.
information.
Yeah.
Get some information from you.
Yeah.
And for everyone out in the audience, I appreciate you, Shelley, Daniel. I think Kurt was here earlier. Thanks to Alexei for co-hosting. He always adds quite a bit of content. When I was younger, we were taught, it's funny how you can be conditioned, right? Because I was taught in the church that, we weren't supposed to believe in ghosts. So, and I'm going to talk about this next time. I want to talk about the idea that my mother used to tell me you can protect yourself from ghosts or boogeyman or whatever by believing in God, and that just the fact that you believed in God, they would stay away from you. Isn't that funny? It's kind of funny, isn't it? It may be some truth to that. I don't know, but it may be that since we've developed this defensive mechanism, that we have to maybe break that down a little bit before we can start to experience things. So I'm gonna be more open, and maybe next time we meet, I'll be able to report back.
I would love to hear that. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So,
right. Well, thank you, Heidi, and we'll see you guys on the next
you're
next
most
PiFi
welcome.
show.
Absolutely. I enjoyed it.
See ya.
What you are about to see is a real-life story. The accounts have gone into great detail to give each side's version of